time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
Police on the Rocky Steps. What did Philly Chris do this time?
Oh, boy, what a stressful day. Philly Chris coming at you live here, everybody. Mike, thanks so much for bailing me out. Sorry for getting in trouble today. I was really just trying to liberate the Rocky statue there, and unfortunately it didn't go over real well, so thanks for getting me situated, but I am just going to make it back in time for the show. We got a great show lined up. We got Susan coming on, the owner of WFYL, 7 o'clock p.m. tonight live. Also, I have a personal story to share with everybody, so tune in. You know what time it is.
You know what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
And we are live. Greetings to our loyal WFYL listeners around the world. Welcome back to your Philadelphia live stream, only on the Freedom Station. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in once again, because you still have the right to hear and the right to be heard. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike G. As always, with me are Philly Chris, Russ the producer, and Liberty Lee. And you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters. And you can listen to our program every Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So let's be heard. I want to remind our listeners that you can participate in the free and open exchange of thoughts and ideas throughout the entire week by visiting MikeGinTheMorning.com. What's it called, Philly Chris?
MikeGinTheMorning.com.
How about you, Liberty?
MikeGinTheMorning.com.
What's it called, Susan?
MikeGinTheMorning.com.
You can catch all of our videos, the shenanigans that Mike G and Philly Chris are up to throughout the week. You can listen to our previous episodes. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell your barber, tell your Uncle Jerry, tell anybody who will listen to check us out at MikeGinTheMorning.com. I also want to remind our listeners about the powerhouse lineup we've got here at the Freedom Station. Kick off your mornings with Scott Adams, bringing you the Scott Adams Show weekdays from 9 a.m. until 11. We've got a fantastic program called the Kinetic Faith Show with friend of the Mike G in the Morning program, Rick Crump, preaching values, service, and order, coming at you weekdays at 11 a.m. We've got the one, the only, Dan the Man Bongino, bringing you the Dan Bongino Show weekdays from noon until 3 p.m. We've got the master, the intellectual giant, Ben Shapiro, bringing you the Ben Shapiro Show weekdays from 3 to 5 p.m. And finally, a welcomed addition to the Freedom Station family. We've got Michael Knowles, bringing you the Michael Knowles Show, weekdays from 5 to 6 p.m. I heard that he and his wife are expecting as of recently, so congratulations to them. So don't forget to tune in and show them some love. And with that, you know what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. Hit it!
You know what time it is. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
We have a very special for the Mike G in the Morning family here today. We've got the owner of the Freedom Station, the founder, Susan Locke, with us here this evening. I cannot say enough great things about Susan. She is responsible for so much good in terms of conservative talk radio and spreading the wonderful messages that people need to hear and have been suppressed through social media and are staying alive through the airwaves. Susan, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
So, Susan, I want to sort of let our listeners in on your story and how you ultimately became the face of the Freedom Station and doing so many good things, because sometimes in that role, you're in charge of everything. You're making sure the machine runs, and people don't get to hear from you all the time. And I think it's incredible how you've done this for so long. So, when did you ultimately become the owner of the Freedom Station?
Well, my husband and I purchased it November 1st of 2012. I can't believe this is the 10th year.
The
It was
10th
10
year.
years in November. That just hit me a week or so ago. I thought, I can't believe it's 10 years. I remember when we had our 5th anniversary and it was such a big deal. Now it's 10. But, God's faithfulness, amazing. It was my husband's vision. He was writing a Christian newsletter in Delaware County for a number of years and trying to get information out to the churches down there and to Christian people so that they would be more aware of what's going on and how our freedoms and people of faith were about to run into some. He
So
could
you saw it coming back then.
He could see it coming. Yeah, we both could, but he really was prescient in that way. And he began to wonder, I think, what could be easier than all of these newsletters, delivering them to like 2,000 churches in the area. And so he came up with the idea of a radio station. And I said, well, that's nice. What would you like for dinner? But he kept thinking about it. And WFYL became available that year of 2012. He had actually had his eye on it for more than a year, and it was out of sight as far as price goes. But the owner of it lived up in Massachusetts and had a stroke and was bedridden for a year. Okay. And so the price dropped and it became affordable, and we bought it. And I still just couldn't quite believe it, business and a lot of responsibilities. But it was about 3 months into it that I began to realize that, well, the Lord just impressed upon me that this wasn't something he was making me do, that he was entrusting this to us.
Wow.
That was completely different. I was just, oh, I'm so sorry, Lord. I didn't understand. And so that changed everything for me. That changed my whole attitude about it. And there was much work involved. We had to transform it from a station that received programming from Boston via computer a day late. For instance, Laura Ingraham was on then from 9 to noon, but it was a day late. But we had to, within 6 months, get a satellite dish up and begin to do everything live. And
they were almost literally selling yesterday's newspaper.
That's right. So we had to change that. We had to get the technology up to speed, and we just had to do it, and that's what we did. So it was a lot of work, but very, very much worth it. And what really began to surprise me, not too far into it, was the people that the Lord began to bring into the station. It was like a hub, just a hub where people like you came into our lives. And just one after another, all of our wonderful hosts came in, and I think we've formed a really strong bond and network. And I'm really grateful for the programming. I'm just very grateful for it. So that's a brief history of how it got started.
Sure. And I want to talk a little bit more about Al in a little bit, but going back to getting involved and him coming in and saying he wants to buy this radio station, had either one of you had any sort of background in media at that point?
No.
None whatsoever.
None at all.
It's
No.
kind of like God telling Noah to build the ark, right?
Exactly.
She's not a boat builder by trade, but go ahead and build this boat that's going to save any living creature on this planet.
Right.
Did you kind of take a step back when he said it and you realized he was serious? Not just when he said it, but when you knew he was saying it and meaning it, did you kind of say, honey, maybe?
Yeah. I did.
What other lofty ideas did he have over the dinner table in one night?
I'm going to build this spaceship.
Yeah.
Although Al's probably capable of building a spaceship.
Oh, he's a genius.
In all fairness, right?
Yeah, he's so smart. Yeah, I had the opportunity to spend a little time with him, and it was amazing. Yeah.
he was able to figure out a lot of things, and then the Lord brought in people with different skills and abilities and technical know-how and everything, computer skills, and that's very much needed. And they were patient enough to teach me, and we learned as we went along, and just had a lot of help. So again, I'm just so grateful.
Well, you had a lot of help, but you also have rolled up your sleeves and done a whole lot of hard work yourself.
Hmm.
And I recall when I first came to the station, and not even when I first started doing this program, but as an analyst on We the People, how much you were doing the station every single time I was there, no matter when it was. You're in there, you're making sure the programs are on the air, you're working on the computers, you're running the soundboard, doing all things that you wouldn't necessarily expect the owner of a station to do under these circumstances. I mean, you really, really care about this and put in a lot of time and effort. Did you anticipate that? Did you know anything about that when you were getting into it?
I didn't. And that kind of goes back to that realization that this was being entrusted to us. That it changed everything. Then I thought, okay, then I want to learn how this works. I want to learn how so that I can tell other people how to do it. And when they're doing it, I can make sure that everything's running smoothly. I don't want to ask somebody else to do something that I'm not willing to do. And it seemed important to learn as much as possible. Not to say that I know that much, but it seemed.
Are you kidding me? Sitting there behind that huge soundboard that's larger than the desk that I'm sitting at right now, and having you run that, and always having to be pristine with all the cuts that come in. You've got that timer on there where the program begins at this point, and then you've got the commercial breaks, and then the program ends, and you're playing the music in between, and you used to play the clips in between. I don't know if people realize this who listen at this point in time, but when we first started doing this program, it was live on air, and I was sitting on the other side of the desk from Susan, who's running the board. I'm on an hour of sleep because of putting together the program. And we're both basically coming into the station from the same area. It's about a 35, 40 minute drive. And we're leaving the house at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to get there.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're in there first thing in the morning, and she's ready to rock and roll. Of course, because you're the station owner too. The first multiple times I did it, I'm sweating, Like, oh man, I better have a perfect program. She's gonna kick me off the air. I'm gonna lose this gig before I even have it. But it was a lot of fun because you knew so much about everything. And then one day I had the idea that, you know what? Let me just ask her a question on the air in the middle of this program. And I know you probably weren't expecting it, but you and I sort of developed this rapport over the next year and a half, right up until COVID, really, where we'd have these conversations. And you were basically the Philly Chris of the program. You were my co-host on the program for a long time. So, Chris, watch out. Now that she knows how to use Skype.
Right. I'm in trouble.
You're in a lot of trouble. You're going to be out of the job, pal.
I was going to say that's when the show really started to decline, right?
No, then you brought Chris in, and I'd be rolling around laughing on the floor.
That's right. I believe we did the original Bag of Bees.
Yeah, that's right.
And Susan had no idea what we were going to do. So we came in, and I had this bright idea that I was going to go. I was going to go on the air as Snowflake,
That's right,
who was this liberal, and you were going to be Sam. You picked Sammy the socialist, and we didn't even tell Susan. We didn't even say, "Hey, we're not going to talk as ourselves today.
Yeah, that
we're
was
going to
great.
talk as
I
these
love
two
the
characters."
fact that,
And we just begin the program as these. She must have thought we were nuts, and I thought in my head before we started out, okay, this could be really bad. We've got the owner of the station sitting on the other side running this thing. She could kill this whole thing and be like, "What do you guys think you're putting on the airways right now?
Right.
This is my reputation and my lifeblood on the line over here. This is, you know how much time." And then about couple of minutes in, I can hear you even through my headphones laughing on the other
I was
side.
watching her
It's like,
body language a little. I'm like, I'm trying to read this, and I'm like, if this goes bad, I'm just gonna get up and leave. Like, I'm not really a part of the show, you know?
we took a shot. We took a shot.
Yeah,
And once I heard you laughing, I was like, okay,
Yeah,
we've got
we're
something
good.
good here. This is
Right,
going to be a
right.
lot of fun. Uh,
Yeah.
but I hope you had as much fun as I did in
Oh,
the
I did.
studio with
Yeah.
all of those programs.
It's always good to laugh, and those things were so funny. I'm just glad you played with that one last week. That was good to hear it again.
Yeah, that
Oh,
never
yeah.
gets the bag of bees never gets. So there are plenty of variations on the bag of bees too.
Yeah.
And that was a spur of the moment thing during that conversation between Sammy the socialist and Snowflakington.
Yeah.
You know, what do you do to protect yourself? And then it became multiple commercials. But even during the early days, Susan, when we were having the callers call in at random and we had no idea who was calling in, and then at some point we had
the phone system.
the phone
That's
system.
another whole thing.
Yeah, we had to have like Al and Liberty man the phones sometimes, and we discovered at some point we probably need some level of screening. We're getting some maniacs on the air.
Let's see here.
That could be exciting too, though. You know.
Never a dull
So,
moment, right?
No, no.
Yeah, that's right.
And Susan always had to keep a close eye on that delay button in case somebody said
Right,
something
right.
that was going to get us fined.
Yeah,
right?
like Ralph, maybe. You know.
That's right. Without fail. Right?
Yeah.
Without fail. So Susan, were you always interested in politics?
Not really. I never liked politics very much, but I was always interested, though, in political affairs, I guess, and our history and what was going on in the world. We were always aware of that, Al and I. We talked about it a lot, and he was so knowledgeable, and you know, we followed it very closely, so we could see what was happening, and just knew the importance of getting the conservative viewpoint out there to, you know, to stand against this whelming flood coming at us. And I've been pretty amazed and overwhelmed at the quality of the people that the Lord has brought together, and the quality of the programs, the history, like the Arch Hunters history, and he and Lydia with We the Kids, the history they do there, and the Constitution program, which you're a part of, and Rick, there's so many. It's Art Cardos, Ken Souter, you know, just so many good programs. Not to mention the national programs, which I think are excellent, like Dan Bongino and so on. But I think that our local people do world-class work. I really do. I'm very, very grateful for it, and I don't take any credit for it. It's that the opportunity has been given to us, and I think we've taken it, and we've been blessed. We've been truly blessed, and I hope that the listeners are too. I hope that they. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to get truth out there.
Absolutely.
Because there's so much deception these days. There's just so much deception, and coming from everywhere, from the schools, from movies. The news media is largely responsible for the situation.
Right. Why do you think that is? Has that ever occurred to you that you look at the mainstream media and it's overwhelmingly slanted liberal?
I think it's partly the journalism schools and the universities.
Gotcha.
Partly big money. I think that they are, you know, the networks are paid. They're paid by whomever. I don't know.
But with conservative talk radio, it seems that's something that's been able to stay alive.
Yeah. Rush Limbaugh really, really hit the mark. He touched the nerve, and everyone loved him from the beginning, you know, just and he kind of set the standard there for a long time. We enjoyed listening to him.
And when you see the censorship that's going on through social media platforms and things of that nature, had you noticed some precursors to that in your time with the station leading up to that? Have you run into issues where the station's been censored or the station's been vandalized or things like that?
Yes, we were vandalized twice. And Laura Ingram, when she was on the air until she began her television program, and she was being harassed by one of her advertisers. There was something that came, and we had to go back years looking for documentation about particular ads that had run, or something. Ridiculous harassment. It hasn't been that bad, that's probably about the worst, but we did have damage to equipment and
serious damage, right? People trying to take the antennas down and everything like that.
Right.
It's crazy.
It's absolutely horrible, and people who don't want the truth to get out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what it comes down to. You've also had a number of hosts on your station ultimately go on to do other things like run for Congress, right?
Right. Kathy Barnett right now is running for senator.
She sure is.
Yeah, she is.
That's pretty cool. She's been around with the station for quite some time, right?
Yes, she and Carla Dedesi were both picked up by Fox. They were on Fox and Friends a number of times, and then Fox and Friends actually set them up at home to have their programs done from home. And they've done well. And like I said, I'm amazed at the people that the Lord has brought in, and I think it's been a chance for all of us to learn and grow and develop talents we didn't even know we had. I mean, did you ever think you would be a talk show host?
Not exactly. That's a very good point. It's just by happenstance that I ended up not only coming to the station, because I had done short appearances on other programs regarding gun laws, and that I had been doing for a while. I'd show up at like a town hall to have gun discussions in DC or whatever, those types of media appearances. But as far as opinion and being on something regularly, that just wasn't something that I did. And somebody had invited me to come down, and I did It's a New Day, and then I did Veterans Voice, and then somehow that landed me an invite to the Christmas party. And I met you at the Christmas party, and you said Oklahoma, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And I met Phil Duffy, and I got a call from Phil Duffy a few weeks later saying, hey, there's an opening. I know you said you do constitutional law. We could use a third party on the show. And then a year of that, spending time with you and Al and Pastor Steve, and then that show, that time slot before me, you had Loomer handcuffing herself to Twitter, so somebody needed to fill in last minute.
Moving over the fence at Nancy Pelosi's house.
Right. And this is somebody who is nationally recognized, but getting into a little bit of trouble here and there and not able to show up for work during the program. So I'll take one for the team, and had a blast. Unfortunately, you've been crazy enough to let me continue doing it for 3 years. But with that being said, for those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So we're coming up on a year since Al went home to be with the Lord. We all miss him very, very dearly. It feels like I saw him yesterday, and I think it's gonna feel like that for the rest of my life, because he's just a person that had so much of an impact on everybody that he met, because he was a very unique human being, and I'm very thankful that I had the opportunity to know him. But I want to sort of go backwards. How did you meet Al?
We met in college. I was a freshman, and he was a fifth-year senior. I didn't know that. I thought he was a junior. I would have been terrified if I'd known he was a fifth-year senior.
And this is at which school?
University of Oklahoma.
University of Oklahoma, Norman. Are you from Oklahoma originally?
I am, yes. I was from there. I graduated from Moore High School, which is about 20 minute north of Norman.
Sure. They got slammed with a tornado, several tornadoes while I was out there. There's a school that got taken out and everything, but that's in the greater Oklahoma City area. Is that fair to say? More?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's almost like a suburb of Oklahoma City to the south of the city there.
Yeah. And so just stayed local for college right over in Norman, ultimately?
Yeah, I wanted to come east for college, but my dad didn't want me to, so I went to OU. And he was from Pennsylvania, and he wanted to be here in the east. He wanted to go to Lehigh, but he got a scholarship to OU, an ROTC scholarship, Navy, and took that. And he became a counselor out there for the out-of-state dorm. And then he founded the honors dorms at the University of Oklahoma. He was always doing something like that. He was always a pioneer.
I can't imagine Al as a counselor of the dorms. You would not want to be. We would be out of luck, right, Chris? You are not sneaking anything by Al.
Right.
Well, he liked pranks too, so he kind of knew.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty good. What did
Yeah.
your dad do for a living?
He was a banker.
Okay, out in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And then so you meet Al, and he's this 5th-year senior. Where were you folks when you met him at school?
Well, I lived in the honors dorm that he had created.
And then he said, "How you doing?"
It had the
Hey now.
Yale honors dorm. And then I pledged a sorority, and there was something called Campus Chest. And in the fall, different groups would purchase a pledge class and the money would be given to charity. And then the pledge class that was purchased had to put on a party for whoever bought them. So Al's dorm, the honors dorm, bought my pledge class. And so we had to have a party for them. And my roommate and friend was writing up the roster and pairing people up. Her boyfriend happened to be in Al's dorm. He was the president of Al's dorm. So she was paired up with him, and she's pairing everybody up. And I had a couple of dates with freshmen, and I said, "Give me the counselor. I don't care who it is. I'm not going out with another." And
great.
so she paired me up with the counselor. So he walked in, and I was like knocked off my feet.
Look at this handsome Pennsylvania man.
That's great.
So that's how we met.
And how much longer later were you married?
We were married. Let's see. That was his final year, and then he went off to the Navy. It was a little under 2 years later we were married.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
You've got a fan club in the comments over here. Gary
Yeah.
says Al was a smart man to
Oh,
marry such a wonderful and smart lady.
that's really
I
nice.
second that. I second that.
That's great.
Thank you.
Good deal. So, and it's amazing that Al ended up out there, because Pennsylvania to Oklahoma is not a very typical journey over there, right?
No, what's interesting is his mother had grown up in Oklahoma, and his dad had been in the Army Air Corps in World War II, stationed at Tinker Air Force Base.
Tinker, Midwest City, right? Or is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And his mom was so cute. She delivered mail out at Tinker. She rode her bicycle and delivered mail out there at Tinker. And she met his dad out there. So I always thought that was very interesting that she was from Oklahoma too.
So did that sort of play a hand in why he was willing to go to Oklahoma? Because
I think so, because his grandmother lived out there and
gotcha.
cousins. Yeah. So
What's your fondest memory of Al?
my fondest memory, his strength.
Hmm.
He was just so. I always felt like he kept me from cycling off into the atmosphere. He was just grounded and wise beyond his years and strong. And I mean, he had his moments when he would fly off too. I mean, our kids would certainly say so, but
Oh, I would pay money to see that.
Yeah, I know. He's so calm. He's so calm.
no, that was I think that's what I miss the most, is that just that strength.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, a couple years before, well, I don't remember, maybe 5 years ago, I was coming back from the station in December, right before Christmas, a few days before Christmas, and it was around 5 o'clock, and it was, you know how it gets dark early.
Yeah.
And I was driving there on Egypt Road, and made a left turn, and somebody came out of nowhere, and there was no way I could stop. I just crashed right into them.
Oh gosh.
And nobody was seriously hurt. Everything was fine. The car was not good, but he was ahead of me in his vehicle, and I think he'd gone to get gas at Wawa or something. And I don't remember if I called him or how he knew, but I just remember sitting there in that car and seeing him walk toward me.
Wow.
It's just like, you know, so reassuring.
Right.
Just his presence was very reassuring.
Everything's going to be okay. I remember something happened in the station one time when we were getting ready to go on the air. Something wasn't working. I forget exactly what it was. I was going to say you pulled a Russ, but it was not nearly anything like that. It was like a very, very tiny miniature Russ. I mean, we might have been delayed like 10 seconds or something.
Right.
Because something went wrong. Like seconds, not minutes, seconds.
Right.
And Al was there, and he was, stay calm. Everything's gonna be all right.
You would always say that to me, be calm.
Right.
Everything's gonna be all right. It reminds me of the story. One of the gun lawyers I work with was out on a boat with Oliver North, and they're in the middle of the ocean, and all of a sudden, like this hurricane comes in, basically, and this boat is getting tossed around. And this lawyer who I'm with, and he's a big, tough guy, you know, real man's man. He says, Mike, I was like crying for my mom. That's how bad it was out there. And he said, Oliver North is leaned up against the railing on the boat. And you could just see like the focus in his eyes that he's not moved at all. He's not swayed. He's not scared. No, nothing. Just like looking into the eye of the storm, daring it to try to hurt him.
Right.
That was Al Locke. That is exactly how he was in every situation. Like he's unshakable. No matter what, he was unshakable. I always said if things really went down, that's the first guy I'd want on my team, right, Susan?
Yeah, that's right. And then he worked with high voltage equipment, very dangerous work. I just kind of willed myself not to think about it most of the time.
Yeah.
Because 13 kV all the time, you know, just really high voltage. And he was in nuclear power in the Navy. So, yeah, he just, he knew how to.
It's interesting because he actually responded to emergencies sometimes when they were downed lines and things like that, right? The 13,000 volt lines, yeah.
Well, transformers blowing and things like that. He was always trying to prevent anything like that from happening.
Sure.
And for that line of work, you really have to have that focus and that calm, because if you freak out and lose your mind, you're not going to do a very good job, right?
Right. You wouldn't want me doing that.
No, you're right up there with them, Susan. I mean, the way that you've handled pressure in this position through the radio station and being in charge of so many different things and having to learn so many new things. So you don't have a background in conservative media. You do have a background in music. Is that correct?
I do have a background in music. Yeah, that's my passion, is music. Yeah.
And how did that start? I mean, we've had the pleasure of seeing you play the piano. Absolutely amazing. How did that start?
I don't know. I climbed up on the bench when I was a little girl. I think as soon as I could, I climbed up on the piano bench at home and wanted to play. And my mother taught me first, and then she got teachers for me when I was very young. I just always loved it. Yeah.
Did you play for Al when you first met him? Is that what won him over?
He tells this story. He told the story of coming. I was a music major at OU, and so you have to practice as you know, for many hours in to get a music degree. And so I'd be in the practice room practicing for maybe 4 or 5 hours a day. And he came walking by to pick me up one day, and I didn't realize he was standing there watching through the glass. And he told me later that he almost walked away and never came back.
What?
Oh no.
Hey
Because
now.
it scared him.
Scared him?
Scared because we were so different. You know, he was not a musician, and I was, and he was into math and science and all that, and I was not. But I think we complemented each other very well.
Mm.
Sure, sure. So it just made him nervous that you were different in those ways. Not like this lady
Well,
must
but
be nuts
music,
if she could
he
sit here for 4
realized
hours in a row.
it's a big part of my life. But he was very supportive of me in that. He made sure that I had a piano, and
Was
he
it an
was
intimidation thing? Like this woman's so wildly talented that
maybe
what
I'm
am I
not
doing
sure.
here? Am I out of my league?
I think it was that. You know, it's
Yeah.
just like, no, this is not,
Mm.
you know, just not my league. Not
Almost like
my thing.
starstruck almost, right?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I
I
just
get
I
the
he
female
just,
Elton John
He's like,
over
I'm not
here.
not worthy.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
no, I didn't mean that. I think it was just they realized how different we were, and you know, just
I'm sticking with my story, Susan. So, for those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. So I want to get into a little bit about the motivation for the station. You were talking about how you were never much into politics, but you had an interest in what was going on in the world. Does that come from a Christian worldview and seeing these different things that may be political in nature, things that our government is doing, and realizing, hey, what does this say about society, and how does it line up with our Christian worldview? Is that sort of where it comes from?
definitely so. I'm so inspired by the people who founded this country, and we were just talking with Philly Chris about that today. That I've always, I mean, 30, 40 years ago, I was thinking, Lord, how did they do it? How did they do it? Because they had to be fighting with one hand like Nehemiah and working with the other. And they did. They did that. And some of them lost their lives, but they didn't give up. They knew how important it was. They had come from countries where they saw what happened um, when liberties were taken away and when tyranny took over. And they just knew that this land was meant to be a land of freedom for people. And that it just means so much to me. It's just a burning passion within me, and it was with Al too. And of course, being in the military, he was sworn to the Constitution to defend it, and well, I don't know. We took that very seriously. I still take it very seriously. Our first allegiance, of course, is to God and to His truth, and but I do believe that He led people to this land, and that His will is for us to live in freedom and not be tyrannized and terrorized. People.
I've got to tell this story because it's a fond memory. Do you remember a few years back when there was this story about this guy who had taken this car that had kids in it and driven away with it? I don't know if the mother had gone into the store, but some guy comes and he steals the car with the kids in it. He's driving away, and ultimately somebody gets another car and chases him down, and they're going on this, basically, I don't want to call it a high-speed chase because they were in Philadelphia and weren't going terribly fast, but
Wasn't
it was
Gary,
for a
Gary
few
the one
miles.
that did that? Didn't Gary?
It wasn't Gary who did that. Yeah. Oh well, if it were, he wouldn't be typing in the chat right now, because what ultimately happened was
Right.
the guy got into a traffic jam,
Mm.
and the one who was chasing gets out and tells the neighborhood people, this guy just stole these two kids, and they
Wow.
dragged him out and beat him to death.
I do remember that.
Really?
Yep, I
And
did.
I was talking about the millstone around the neck, and he comes in, he's got this grin on his face, and he's just said, I've never been so proud to be a Philadelphian.
Very different than when we snowballed Santa Claus, right?
I was dying. Al, look at you.
Funny.
I'm sure you've got tons of stories like that, right? There's lots of smiles with the stories. We miss him dearly. But when did you become a Christian? When did you really get solid in your faith, and when did this become something that you talked about? How really the whole reason you have the station is God told you, "Hey, I'm entrusting you with this." Where does it all come from?
Well, I grew up in a Christian home and going to church, but when I was 12, I went to a summer camp at Falls Creek in Oklahoma, and came to know the Lord there. That's when I really knew that that I
And
knew.
that was it. Solid streak from there. Just once you knew it, you couldn't unknow it, basically.
Couldn't unknow it. Came to a deeper walk with Him in 1977. After our second child was born, that I just came into a deeper walk with the Lord then.
That's
Yeah.
great. That's fantastic. Philly, Chris, you've been having some very interesting things happen as of late. And
Yes.
you've been in prayer about a lot of this. You had a near-death experience very recently. I believe you shared some of it with Susan, right?
I did. Yeah, we were talking about it today, actually, and it's interesting, the camp connection you just mentioned there too. But yeah, you want me to get into that now, Mike? Or
Yeah, because
yeah.
I really want Susan's input on some of this. I think that
Sure.
it'd be interesting to hear it from her perspective, what she thinks, because it's undeniable,
Yeah, we shared. We talked about it briefly today, and let me get into it. It was pretty wild because the past few weeks and months, I haven't talked about this too much on the air, but I've been having some issues with my back, and having some pain issues to a bit, which I'm trying to resolve. Turned 50. I was in the Senate for 120 years, so you know how that goes. But anyway, when I was young, I was very close to God and in my faith. I went to Catholic school. I was raised by amazing parents. I'm so thankful. Shout out to mom and dad. But as I got older, I kind of veered off that path and questioned it. And it's been a while, on and off since I've really, been close to God. And recently I was staying with family and I was in their backyard. And for the first time in a long time, I prayed in a way that I just felt it, in my heart and in my soul. And I was looking up at the sky. It was late at night. And I was just seeking answers, and I was making promises, at the same time. And then literally the next day, I got some news about, a very unfortunate a friend of mine from childhood camp. I've talked about camp I attended on the air several times up in New England, who suddenly passed unexpectedly. So, I was very conflicted by that information, but there was some connections there with this individual. And then, just such sad news, so many folks in the Dakota family are mourning right now. And, and then literally within a few days, I was still thinking about what just happened with him and how, how much was going on. And I was in the kitchen very late at night. It was around 10:30, between 10:30 and 11. And I was making tea. I like to drink tea at night, some honey, green tea type of thing. And all of a sudden, my eyes just were filled with the brightest light. And I heard the loudest sound. And, I was hit with this impact through my feet. The ground shook. And there was an explosion. And, it was quite alarming. And, I really thought that the house I was in was, was being crashed. Something was like crashing into it. So I ran and alerted everybody else in the house. And we got outside and I ran out front, and there was this giant tree in the front yard that collapsed and literally collapsed across the street and hit a 13,000 volt power line, which shorted out. You just mentioned 13,000 volts a few minutes ago, Susan. That's the type of equipment Al actually used to work on occasion. And it hit the wires and shorted out and nearly went through the house across the street. Luckily, the wires grabbed the tree. If it fell the other way, it would have fallen on the house I was in. And I don't know, myself and others would have been seriously injured, if not killed. So now it's laying across the street. There's actually a clip in the dock. Maybe we could take a look at that real quick before I continue the story, because a few things transpired after that. If you want to look in the dock, Ross, you there?
Yeah, go ahead and pull up that clip.
Yeah, maybe we can look at that real quick. The second clip down, where it says like electric chainsaw. I decided, because of the gravity of the situation, I knew they'd be up, chainsaw, So here's a clip of what I walked out to see. Thanks, Russ. And then we'll continue the story after that. Yeah. So anyway, it was a pretty crazy night. And when this first happened, of course, there was no emergency personnel on scene. So having some past experience with, even in your seminars, trying to deal with critical incidents and being a lifeguard at camp and Boy Scout and things of that nature, I immediately went out in the street and started to make sure no traffic would hit that tree, because it's pretty dark out there. And actually a car did come up on that tree pretty quick. So we got some lights on the scene, called 911. Things of that nature. What was really amazing about it is, as I'm watching this, I thought, let me stay up and I'm going to see how these guys do their job. Some real men out there working in the middle of the night on call. And, have been being part of the show. I mentioned to them, I went over to the gentleman who was on scene. He was taking some pictures, the first guy that showed up, and I walked up and asked him, if he'd mind if I watched, I'd stay out of the way. And he was telling me how he was taking pictures for his daughter, because she loves to see what he's doing while he's out on call. And I said, hey, I'll send you some pictures and video of it. And if you don't mind, I'd love to talk to your crew. I happen to be in the media. And he's like, yeah, sure, that'd be great. So I got their approval, told them I'd stay at a safe distance. And then immediately after that, a truck pulled up, and these two men got out of the truck and walked over. And one of the men had a white hard hat on, and it had a cross on it. And that just, to me, based on what had happened a few nights earlier in the week I was having, it seemed to be some sort of sign, if you will. And his name is Bruce, which was also, there was a connection there, a personal connection. So anyway, I introduced myself to him, and I said, hey, I was talking to Joe, your supervisor on site, and, went through the whole spiel again. I said, I'd love to talk to you for a moment. You have a minute? And he's like, yeah, sure. Why don't you come over to my truck? I'm waiting for my guys to get here. And if you want to get that next clip ready, Russ, the one that says a message from Bruce, get that queued up. And this is what happened. I just started rolling. That was the extent of my conversation, and this is what he shared with me.
This is Bruce with the cross on the hard hat.
Yes. Yeah.
Work and everything.
Yeah.
That we all gather around and we pray before we go out
Okay.
for the trip, just because they know me, because that's what I will do.
Really? Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, I noticed your helmet has a cross on there. Tell me a little bit about that, if you don't mind. Yeah.
It's just to represent my beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
and that I'm a Christian,
Mm-hmm.
and like I say, it's basically it's what it's there for.
Right. No, that's wonderful.
One guy at work calls me chaplain, or pastor. He actually calls me pastor, but
Okay.
I'm not. But
Okay.
they
Well,
know my religious beliefs and stuff like that.
Were you raised a certain?
I was raised Protestant or Pentecostal.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. And have you always stayed faithful, or did you have any?
Oh, when I was
challenges?
younger, I was wild.
Okay. Okay. We're all human, right?
All right. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
rebellious years.
Right. Right. Right.
And then, this is just vegan experience. When God wants you, He'll put you into a corner where you serve Him or you don't.
Okay.
And it's your choice. That's all it is to it.
Do you believe that things happen for a reason?
Some things, most of the time, yeah. There's always a reason behind something. You never know. And I always tell these guys, I said, when your time's up, your time is up, because when God calls you, it's it. There's no if, ands, or but. You're gone. You can just be sitting in a truck like I am right now, and next second, I could be gone.
Right. I just lost a close friend a couple days ago.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know. I feel like you're here for some sort of reason.
We're all here for something.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't know. Well, I'll share something with you, and you tell me what you think. Because last night I had a conversation with my, I think it was last night, or it might be the night before. No, it was last night, with my close friend who I do the show with, and he's an attorney. So, you know, he would back this right up. But I shared something with him and his wife, and I told him the other night that I prayed to God, and I asked him to listen to me and to show me a sign, and it was in this yard right here 2 days ago. And then you mysteriously show up because this tree just climbed. So anyway, read into it what you want.
Well, they
Before
always
you
say
even got
God
here.
works in mysterious ways.
Yeah,
So
right.
that's what I can tell you.
So I want to thank you for being here, and I've already talked to some of your colleagues, and it's pretty amazing the skill set that it takes to complete a task like this and keep us all safe. And while everybody is home right now in bed, you know,
Okay, wait. Here comes my guys.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll let you go. We'll catch up later, my friend. You got to get to work, but thank you. Yeah.
Well, eventually I go.
Yep. Okay.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that with everybody. It was, you know, a powerful week for me, and kind of life altering in a positive way. So, you know, I don't know.
Of course, if he called me and asked because you said I'd back him up, I'd be like, "Oh, that guy's nuts. You don't listen to him."
He told me he was going to blow that tree up.
he said the first guy who shows up with a cross on his hard hat, you watch what happens to him.
And maybe just
it puts the lotion on its skin.
we coordinated this. Yeah, no, it was. I don't know. I'm still interpreting all of this and everything, and I'm just so thankful.
Well, I mean, you're not. If you have the intelligence that God gave geese, you know that if you're asking God for a sign, and
I don't know, geese can fly, Mike. I don't know. I can't. It's been a while. They're pretty smart.
I don't know if that's on the account of intelligence, though.
Yeah, true.
But the tree, you know, your buddy passes away. Mm-hmm. The tree falls, and it could have very well killed all of you.
Yeah, if it went the other direction.
Up, and the first thing he says is, "You never know when you're going to go." Right.
Right. Yeah.
It's pretty much, from what I'm seeing from the outside, it's an excellent point, because you never know when your time's up.
Right.
And that's why people really shouldn't procrastinate in terms of getting right with God, right?
Right.
Accepting. Susan, what do you think about all this?
That's right. That's exactly right. And Chris and I were talking about it today. To me, the Lord just seems to be drawing us all closer. At least I feel that way. And prayer is so important. It's just so important in our lives. I've always known that. But I don't know, a month or so ago, I don't know, a few weeks ago, I was listening to the radio and heard Casting Crowns singing the hymn "Sweet Hour of Prayer."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the third verse of that, when they got to the third verse, these final words just struck me like, I mean, I've heard this song all my life, but the final verse says, "Sweet hour of prayer, sweet hour of prayer, may I thy consolation share, till from Mount Pisgah's lofty height I view my home and take my flight. This robe of flesh I'll drop and rise to seize the everlasting prize, and shout while passing through the air, farewell, farewell, sweet hour of prayer." Those words at the end, farewell, farewell, sweet hour of prayer, just grabbed me, because I never thought about it that way before. Right. That once we are free from this and we're on up there, that will be glorious, but we won't have that one-on-one special communion time with the Lord that he wants us to have with him. That what a gift that is. Sort of like with the station. I'm not making you do this. I'm entrusting this to you. He's not making us. It's not you have to pray an hour a day. It's not that. It's that he loves us so much, like Jesus prayed in John 17, that he and the Father are one, and we are one with him, and we're all one. He wants us to understand that closeness and that communion with him and how precious that is, and it means as much to him as it does to us. I don't know, it just really, I'd never understood it that way before. The preciousness of it. And I think if we realize that, we know he's always with us. We know he's always leading, guiding, and helping. But just that preciousness of that communion with him. And I think especially in these dark days of deception and so many people afraid, the pandemic and the wars and rumors of wars and all the things that could very well happen. He wants us to know that he's still on the throne. He loves us. He's just drawing us closer and closer. And we don't need to be afraid. We need to just draw close in prayer. And it gives me hope. It just gives me hope to know that he's with us all the time,
Do you think that unfortunately, when things are better or at their best and life is good, that people tend to move away from God? Because, when you're in trouble, when you're drowning, of course, the first thing everybody's doing is calling out to God, save me. But if life's good, you're hanging out on the beach and you got all the money in the world. You're doing the things that you want to do, even if they're not right with God. Who needs that? Right. Do you think that the better things get, sometimes, unfortunately, the easier it is for people to turn their back on God?
I do. I agree. Mm-hmm.
It is amazing how you see these things. You could call it a coincidence, but Chris, you're talking about things happening for a reason. Well, I think it's more that God has a plan, right? There are no mistakes with God.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that because you recall when I was sitting in the car with you and your wife, and you remember I was in the back seat. I was like, this it's just weird how many things are happening all together that seem to have these connections. And then the tree thing,
just kept going.
Yeah, it was like just unbelievable. And then what he said, the message, he had, without him knowing anything about what just happened with me. And it's odd that we had Susan lined up tonight, and there's that connection, like you said, 13,000 volts a few minutes ago. Those are 13,000 volt lines. They just they told me that night, and Al, the Verizon stuff that you told me about with the him repairing that type of equipment as well. And Verizon was here, Pico was here. Shout out to all those guys.
It always seems to be like a series of events, because you would not have met that gentleman had not the tree fallen, right?
That's correct. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I don't know. It's undeniable in my opinion. And it's just interesting how it all transpired so quickly after, and I prayed in a way that I haven't since probably I was a child, that inner conviction that you feel,
We got an interesting comment from CB here along those lines. It says, I was never too spiritual, but recently have been having thoughts and a feeling in my heart to go to church. I don't know why, but now with me here watching this live, I feel like there's a sign for me.
Well, thank you.
Wow, no kidding, right? That's amazing.
Yeah, and I've been feeling, I've openly talked on the show. I've had some challenges with my faith, and I'm not one to go around and claim to be something I'm not. So, I've had some trauma. We all have, and some moments where I just really question.
I feel at this point, God would be out there. What are you waiting for?
Well, maybe I just needed to really be.
What more do I have to do?
The poor tree.
Do you want like an engraved invitation? Or?
Well, I think I got one, Mike. Message received. Message received.
Yeah.
Obviously. And it's weird how sometimes these bad things happen for good things to happen, because I imagine it's pretty inconvenient to have that tree go down over there.
Well, and also when you have to come over and, I'm always all over the place, Florida, and been traveling through the pandemic, and I'm kind of bouncing around because of my family's situation down there, my folks and all, and I enjoy, moving around a little bit, but you'll have to come over and I'll show you the tree. Because when I was praying, I was looking up through some of the branches,
But you could have
of
very
that tree.
easily been in the
Oh, I
same
would have been.
spot
I
that
will
night.
show you where I was. And
And
if
you
it
could have
fell
been
toward me, I would have been crushed.
You were squashed like a bug.
Yeah. And it would have gone through, the house and killed, most likely killed my family, which is still, I'm processing all of this.
This would be the Philly Chris Memorial episode.
Exactly. Well, and I dedicate this to my friend from camp. I sent you the write-up about him today. Susan, you've seen it, Mike, just a legend, a leader, a rock.
Denise wants to know
Somebody-
what was his
yeah.
first name.
Bill.
Bill.
Yeah, Bill. Oh, it's public out there. Bill Jarvis. We called him Billy Jarvis. Yeah, the Dakota, amazing individual. Yeah, so many people loved him. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Susan, are there any instances in your life that come to mind where something that at the time you thought was horrible happened, but you realized, well, if that never happened, then this wouldn't have happened? Anything like that? Well, maybe those bad dates with the freshmen's one of them, right? Because had that not happened, you wouldn't have been like, oh, give me the counselor because I'm done with freshmen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there have been a lot of things like that. Too many to enumerate. I had this wonderful friend, this woman who lived to be 102. She was amazing.
That's almost Chris's age.
Yeah.
What was that? Oh, 102.
Yeah, it's almost Chris's
That was like 10 years ago for me.
And she would often say, she said, I've lived long enough now to know that the Lord has a wonderful way of working things out. And it's just true, it's just true. Even the really bad things.
Yeah. If there's any silver lining, and maybe I'll go as far. I was thinking about doing this on the air. I guess I'll do it. I don't know. Maybe you're my lawyer. I should ask you first, Mike. But I made a promise that night to God. I told you about it today, Susan, because I've been doing something I shouldn't do, and that's dabbling and smoking cigarettes. I never smoked when I was younger. You can ask anybody. I'd take a lie detector test. Didn't drink, didn't smoke.
It's a good habit to pick up when you're 112.
Yeah,
right?
I did make sure cigars are okay though, Mike. So we're good. I did. I seriously did that because I'm like.
Cigars
So
are
anyway.
acceptable.
I'm going to put this out there. If anyone in the world ever catches me smoking a cigarette, I will give you $1,000 cash.
Wow.
Okay?
Hear that?
I'm not going to touch a cigarette ever again.
I'm on my way
Ever
over.
again.
Ever again. I will never smoke a cigarette.
again.
Ever again. It's
I'm
not
just
happening.
Every
can
time
offer
Chris
them to
shows
me.
up, I'm just gonna have cartons of Camels laying around that I'm gonna be smoking
Yeah.
one after the other. Like, oh, you sure you don't want one, bro? I can't smoke all these myself, man.
I had one left in the box. I saved it. I'm going to keep it as a reminder and my promise. And, tempt me. You see me out there often. And here's the other part of that. I thought about this. If you give me one, I'm going to break it in half. So then there's one less cigarette in the world.
Oh wow.
So, but $1,000 cash. I have to be smoking. It has to be lit and smoked. So.
It has to be lit and smoked.
We'll write up
Does
a
it
contract.
count if you're
Those are the
sleeping and we put it in your mouth and light it?
Come on,
No.
Russ. No, that doesn't count. Yeah.
Are there any other stipulations that we have to get in here? Any other rules?
I don't know. You're my attorney, so what do you think?
I know. I
Yeah.
feel like we're drafting a contract.
Yeah, we need to
now,
do-
because
let's
what
do
I
it.
don't want to happen is you to get caught with something and then everybody have a dispute as to whether or not.
Yeah, no. Any commercial cigarette, like a cigarette, a nicotine filled.
What are you saying? Like joints are okay or what?
Well, I didn't say anything about this at all. I didn't mention those at all.
Are we allowed to say joints on the air?
Joints? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we
But
Does it
cigars
count
are
if you
okay. I
roll
did
it
ask you about
yourself?
Cigars, yeah, right.
Yeah, no, you can't
Yeah.
roll your own cigarette. That doesn't count.
That's
right?
correct. Yeah, any regular cigarette, right?
Yes, any cigarette.
Right.
Does it have to be
Wow.
made out of actual cigarette stuff?
Yeah.
Can
I
it-
guess
can
so.
it be
like a
like a
commercial cigarette or a hand rolled cigarette?
Can
or
it be
something
like
that, yeah.
shredded $100 bill cigarette?
I don't know. Do they have that?
I don't
I don't
know.
know. Yeah, the cigars were okay though. I tried.
And would that be bad? Would that even be bad? I'm sure it would be bad. I'm sure it would
What's
be
that?
good for you, right?
But
Susan, do you know anything about the health effects of shredded $100 bill cigarettes? I don't know. We need some input over here.
Just gotta throw money at the problem.
You know what you'd be smoking then if you smoke money? Mostly, guys, you know what they put in money? What it's mostly made out of?
They have
paper?
fiats, right?
Well, it's a fiat currency. Yep. Good. Check
I'm
this
talking
out.
about the
Look at Russ.
car.
Yeah. But what's they actually take jeans and they put it in the money. That's why.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
durable.
You can tell with the fibers, right?
Yeah. The blue. It's the same like denim material. That's my understanding. I'll double check and see if it's still that way. But I know a long time ago I think I went to the mint with my father.
You're
young,
gonna get fact checked by somebody. They're like, yeah,
right.
this conservative
Yeah,
disinformation
right.
is not made out of
Yeah.
jeans. It's made out of corduroy.
Right.
You ever touch Australian money?
I don't recall. It's been a while since I took my TR3B over to Australia to travel through time, but that was a couple of years from now.
Have you ever played cards with a really fancy deck of plastic cards? They call them chem cards.
Like the ones in the casinos?
I don't know that they use them in the casino because they're expensive.
I don't know if I have.
Usually a throwaway. They punched a hole in them. Everything.
Yeah, but they're nice cards though at the casinos. Yeah.
But the chem cards, the plastic cards that a lot of people who play a lot of poker will have these.
Okay.
Still play with these.
Right.
That's similar to the texture that Australian money is. It's almost like a plasticky sort of thing. Yeah, and you can't ruin it by getting wet or anything like that.
Interesting. Oh,
It doesn't crinkle and bend or anything like that.
Right. Sure. Chem cards.
Very
also.
interesting.
All right, we got to get some for the show.
Yeah. There we go. Some
We
Australian.
should have a card night on the air live.
That would be fun.
Want to play cards with us, Susan, one night? You like cards?
Sure.
Hey, we're doing live music now. What everybody think of the live music? I mean, I've
Susan,
seen Mike
are you
play
gonna
a
get
little
down on a
bit.
jam session with us sometime, Susan?
That would be wonderful. I'd love it.
That would be a lot of fun.
We're just gonna open our own Freedom Station casino. Is that what it? Cards, music,
the casino with live music,
cigars.
We'll teach Russ how to count cards.
Jeez,
it'll be fun. Have like a Freedom Station festival where we have. Because in New York, whenever they had the Italian feast, there would always be like a mini casino night kind of thing, and they'd have live music, and then they'd have people cooking stuff, and people would be smoking cigars. The Freedom Station Festival. What do you think of that?
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Yeah,
Does that sound like fun, Susan?
It does.
Yeah, Freedom Station Festival. Let's see if we could make that a thing. We'll sort of get it to catch on throughout social media. See how many people say yes, I'd be at that Freedom Station Festival.
Absolutely.
Happy 10-year anniversary for the Freedom Station. Come to the Freedom Festival.
We talked about that today, Susan, a little bit, didn't we?
Anniversary Freedom Station Festival.
No, about having an event where we played music.
Okay.
Yeah, but it just happens to line up, so we'll call it that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Can you play any instruments, Ross?
No.
Okay.
You look like a tuba guy. You don't play the tuba?
Russ plays the piccolo.
What, like a clown?
I gave up on the recorder. I had one of those little recorder things, and I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Should have kept up with it, though. Yeah. I wasn't as smart as Susan was.
Susan, how long was Al in the service?
5.5 years. 5.5 or 6 years.
And where was he stationed?
First, he was stationed in Groton, Connecticut. His submarine was he went to sub school. Wait. No, he went to a school up in New York. Then he went to one in Bainbridge, Maryland. And then when we were married, he went to submarine school in Groton, Connecticut. And from there, the submarine that he was assigned to was in overhaul in Newport News. So we lived there for a little while. And then he was on the crew that they had the blue and the gold cruise, and he was on the crew that took it down through the Panama Canal and over to Hawaii. Ford Island, Hawaii is where it was based. Wow. And so that they would be there in port. One crew would be home for about 2.5 months, while the other crew took the boat, they call them boats, out patrol. So he'd be on patrol for about 3 months or so, and then back again. So in Hawaii for a couple of years, a year and 10 months.
Sounds miserable.
It was wonderful. I loved it there. I would have stayed there forever. I just loved it.
Mm.
And he said, well, you could waste your whole life away here. And it's like,
Doesn't sound so bad, Al.
Have you ever been inside a sub? Did you ever get to
yes,
show you a tour?
yes, yes. I did.
He's like, who needs Hawaii when you got Delaware County waiting for you?
Right. And he was on a nuclear sub, right? You said he was.
Yes,
in that.
was.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Wow.
And then, so when he gets out, is that when he starts his own business, or?
He worked for his father for about 3 years in Reading, and then he got a job with Westinghouse down here in Delaware County, and did field service engineering for them, and began their infrared survey program, and then decided to go into business for himself. So, yeah.
And how was that when he started his own business? Was
Terrifying.
It was terrifying, you said?
Yes, it was terrifying.
Because you're putting it all on the line, right? It's sink or swim.
Yeah, you're stepping off a cliff when you go into business for yourself.
And did you have kids at the time?
We did. We had two our daughters.
And how old were they?
78. They were 5 and 2.
Okay, so you've got 2 young kids, and you're just taking this leap of faith at that point. And things go south real quick. But of course, Al is Oliver North on the edge of the rocking boat in the middle of the hurricane. He's like, I got this, right? And I'm sure there was no. You say it was terrifying, but if you're gonna be in a terrifying situation, that's the guy to be there with, right?
Yeah, it's worth it. I think if you make it, a lot of small businesses don't. Not for lack of trying, but things go wrong. But we were blessed, and he began to get good customers, and didn't really ever do much advertising. It was word of mouth. He was hired by people. So.
And he got that reputation once he did a few jobs. People said this guy's the real deal. He's got a good work ethic. He puts together a good product. He's trustworthy. He's not going to rip us off, right?
All about safety.
All about safety, and you get that reputation. I'm sure there's not tons of people who are good at that particular job out there, right? It's not like they grow on trees.
Well, when I say it was terrifying, it was, because it's a big risk, but it was also an adventure. And I think it's worth it when you can do that and set your own agenda, so to speak, as much as you can. I mean, you're pretty.
That's a good point. Do you think that it's a problem in this country that basically small businesses are dying off, and we've got a handful of big corporations who are taking over several industries?
I do. I think the strength of our country is in the small businesses. A great strength of our country is the small businesses. I guess I should put it that way. Certainly, that entrepreneurial spirit here in America has been something that has drawn people here always.
Right.
It's a wonderful chance to make a life for yourself, if possible, using whatever skills or talents you have.
It's a little bit of a dichotomy, because the large corporations are able to exist because of capitalism, but their very existence seems to be promoting the idea that we need to get away from capitalism and pushing people towards socialism, because you have these people who work for these big corporations who are the only option for many people to work in these industries sometimes, and they're absolutely miserable, and they see the CEO at the top getting all this money, or the people up top getting a disparate amount of money from the people who are working there. And then you got Bernie Sanders and AOC come along and say, hey, look at how unfair this is. What you need to do is put your trust in the government, and we'll just make sure that everybody gets the money and you don't get jerked around like you are right now. It's very strange how, if you've got the small businesses and people working for themselves and in charge of their own destiny, you're more likely to tell an AOC or Bernie Sanders, hey, take a hike, pal. I work hard for my money. I've I've got what I want. I'm providing for my family. I don't want to give half of it to you just so you could do what you think is good for it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And plus, you got these big corporations, they've got their own social agendas, right? How many times do you turn on the TV and you see that some big corporation has gone woke?
It's terrible. It really is. The globalism is not good for us. And socialism doesn't work. It has never worked.
Right.
It never will work. It can't
We'll
work.
do it different this time, Susan. They just did not do it right.
What are you talking about, Susan? This is Sammy.
Sammy, the socialist, will show you.
You know, Susan, we know how to do it better. We know how to make better decisions than you. And if we want to destroy your country, we'll use socialism. So just sit back and relax. You won't own anything. You'll like it. You know?
Just give us your taxes.
Yes, thank you. We'd like more of those, by the way.
Yes.
Buckle up and be tolerant of the ride.
Enjoy
such a strong wide.
Oh, by the way, we have to burn all those books behind you. We're sorry about that, but we'll keep you warm.
Yeah, for a while.
Yes.
Susan, are you aware that I think we're the first program on WFYL to have a former United States president on, aren't we? I know that Al was fond of Trump. I used to love when Trump would do something policy-wise that would irritate everybody on the left, and Al would just have this grin on his face when he'd come in to talk about it. It's like, he was excited. Did you find that when Trump ran and Trump got in, that it gave Al like a burst of energy almost? Like,
Yes, it was encouraging.
encouraging?
Very encouraging. Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people in the country were fed up with candidates like Mitt Romney and Bob Dole and John McCain, and like, oh, when are we going to get somebody who is just going to go out there and tell it like it is?
Mm-hmm.
And Trump comes out there and everybody's like, finally.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at like morally, couldn't be Donald J. Trump could not be farther than Al Locke, right? Al Locke is like the model citizen, the model Christian, the veteran, and Trump is, yeah. Listen, he's we're all flawed men, but some are better at it than others. But policy-wise, he had a way of getting things done that people like an Al Locke or who are on our wavelength would appreciate. Did you find that interesting?
Yes, it was interesting, and he got good things done. He did.
Yeah.
They were good things.
Absolutely.
They were good things.
And hey, if you're, we're all sinners, and maybe he reached a point where he, improved himself too. We all have that opportunity, I suppose.
Absolutely. But are we the only program to have a former president on WFYL?
I think so.
Yeah. Maybe we could get him on now.
The only local one.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. President, could we get Mr. President on the line?
We're patching him in, right?
Patch him in.
President Trump was on Dan Bongino's show 2 days ago, on Tuesday. Yeah.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Oh, well,
Are you working
we're
on
the
that, Russ?
homegrown WFYL. We're the first homegrown WFYL station. Right. I don't think any of the other local shows have had one on. Mm-hmm. So do we have him on, Russ?
Which president do you want? I have a few of them.
I thought that President Clinton was going to join us once again.
Oh.
Let's see if I can convince him to come over here. Hey,
yeah.
Bill!
Very special episode. We've got
Bill!
the station owner here.
Oh, put that away. Get over here. Hey, guys. How's it going?
Oh, Mr. President Clinton, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. We've got the station owner, Susan, here with us. And we're so honored that she's here, and we figured let's make it a very special episode and have good old Slick Willie join us.
I didn't know he was going to be on.
I did not agree to do a program with that man. Susan, what are you talking about? You told us you wanted to be on with Bill Clinton. These allegations are false, and I need to get back to work for the American people.
Those allegations are false. I'm actually, I'm not in the shape that I used to be. There's no way that could have happened.
Oh, have you been taking care of yourself?
No.
Well, certainly Hillary keeps you on her toes. I hear she's running for president again.
I keep her in the doghouse.
She has said that you're a tough dog to keep on the porch. That's what I've heard. You keep getting out of the doghouse. That's
Right.
her issue.
You need to fence that yard in, you know.
I don't even want to be near her most of the time. Have you heard her laugh? She sounds like a cackling witch.
Susan, do you have anything to say to Mr. President?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I think she's kicking you off of the station,
Yeah,
Mr. President.
right.
But thank you so much for joining us once
I didn't
again.
do anything wrong, I swear.
All right, we believe you. We believe you. Thanks for coming
Touching the third rail.
Denise says, "Keep it clean, gentlemen." Of course. What do you think? Susan's present. Come on.
Right.
What do you think we are? A bunch of animals over
She
here?
can pull the plug right now on all of us. So that's great.
Say the wrong thing,
Susan.
you might get kicked off the air.
Listen, I told you it's got to be it. We got the station owner. What she says is final. So take a hike.
That's right.
For those of us just tuning in, you're listening to Mike G in the Morning with The Law Matters, only on the Freedom Station, WFYL. Susan, you've been so generous with your time. Before we let you go, I want to ask you a little bit about what you think about the state of affairs in this country today. I can't personally imagine that anybody who voted for Joe Biden is looking at what's going on today and saying, yeah, this is exactly how I hoped it would be when I cast my vote. With the gas prices the way they are, they all said that if Trump were in office, that the economy was going to be terrible. It did pretty well. It saved the COVID spike, but it rebounded pretty well after that even. And now we're having some serious issues. Gas is through the roof. Of course, they all made the claim that if Trump got into office, that we're going to end up in World War III because he was absolutely nuts. Now, it might have had sort of the opposite effect. I think New York Times may have even put out an article, or Washington Post, one of those liberal rags, admitted that Trump was actually good for foreign policy because he was just nuts enough that nobody wanted to mess with us. They said, you know what? That guy is kind of unpredictable. We're just going to leave them alone. But now we're looking at a potential for World War III. Now, he's not in office. It just seems that in every corner, everywhere you turn, things are not better than they were when Trump was in office. Where do you think this is headed, Susan?
Well, it's gone downhill so rapidly, which was totally predictable. Because when you're dealing with liars and people who gaslight constantly, the corruption is at a level perhaps unprecedented. I'm not sure, but it's really serious corruption. And I don't know. It's obvious, that there are so many things wrong. Everything is wrong, and everyone is concerned. And that kind of brings me back to the importance of prayer, because God is our only hope. And I think it's important for us to turn to him, collectively and individually, to turn to him and pray. Because
do you think that the election
things have gone, there are so many things wrong, and that it's almost as though those dreadful words, he gave them over. He gave them over. It's almost like he's saying, okay, have it your way. See how that works for you. And it's not working for us at all. It's not going well at all. We really need to get back on track with God and with what's true. And, some of the good things that have come from COVID, there are many good things. For instance, the technology, we can do all this with computer now. We don't have to be at the station at 5:30 in the morning.
Right.
There are a lot of things. We don't have to drive so far. We can work where we are and be very effective. Those are good things. And I think that it's made people more aware of the fragility of life and the just as you were talking, Chris, so many people have been ill, and there's just so many things that have come from this. I think it's been a wake-up call for people and possibly helped to turn them back, I hope, to the Lord, not away from him. But really, it's also very important to read his word and read the prophecies and see how many are fulfilled already. I mean, we're really speeding toward something that he knows. It's all in his plan. So we need not be alarmed, but we do need to stand up for truth, though. We really must. I mean, Christians and people who love God can't just say, well, he'll take care of it. He puts us here for a reason. And we're not just supposed to sit back, enjoy ourselves, and not do what's right. And when you see children being taught these evil things, we have to take a stand against things like that. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. And you can gaslight and say, no, it's fine. No, it isn't. It really isn't. And it doesn't take a genius to see that. It just takes the courage to speak up and say, look, the emperor has no clothes. This is not working. This is really bad. It's not working.
Well, think about something as simple as like Hunter Biden's laptop, right? Within the last couple of weeks, we found out, in air quotes, that it wasn't Russian disinformation. And I posted something that I made on social media, and it said, you mean to tell me that anybody with the intelligence that God gave geese thought that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation? Everybody knew it was legit. But like you're saying, everybody in the media went out there and said, oh, we can't report about this. We're not touching this. It's not been verified. It could very well just be Russian disinformation. And you didn't hear anything about it. And that was the end of that. Meanwhile, there's obviously 100% legit. The emails in there say things along the lines of the big guy gets 10%, so he's on the payroll. They never came out there. Notice that not Biden nor anybody else closely tied to him ever came out there and said, no, these emails are completely fabricated and they're made up. These are not legit, which seems like what you would do if somebody totally makes something up like that, right? Remember when they made up all those ridiculous things about Trump on Inauguration Day, I think it was, when they said that he did these wild, ridiculous, disgusting things in Russia? And what did he do? He came out there and was like, that's disgusting. I'm a germaphobe. Of course I didn't do that, He came out there and just said it. They didn't do that with Hunter Biden's laptop. They never said that this is all made up and it's not true, because they could have ended up putting themselves in a more serious situation, because it is true.
Yeah, they could have made it look like they lied to us.
And we all know it's true. And that's just one example of a million, right, Susan?
It's very disturbing. It's very disturbing how they lie. You asked me, why do they do that? I don't know. There are probably myriad reasons, but what's really disturbing to me is that the same tactics, the enemy uses these tactics, and the enemy, Satan, uses these same tactics over and over against people because he knows they work. And it disturbs me to look back in history and see that in the early 1900s, these very same things were happening in Russia. This is how the Soviets took over in Russia. In the 30s, this is exactly what happened in Nazi Germany. And people don't know history. They don't know, they don't see that these same tactics were used then that are being used now. And you better wake up and take a look. It's so obvious.
Like, that could never happen. That could never happen here. What are you talking about?
Spanish flu, COVID. Oh,
It could never happen here. Well, I mean, even smaller things along the lines of, I showed Chris a video, and we may have played some of it on this program. It's a video that gets taken off of many social media platforms, but there was a guy named Dr. Wilner. And I don't know if you even know this, Susan, but Dr. Wilner injected himself with HIV positive blood at a press conference on TV to make a point that Fauci was misleading the public about drugs that were being put out there, that were supposed to treat HIV and AIDS. And 3 months later, he drops dead of a heart attack, this Wilner guy. But he did it in a press conference, and a lot of his criticisms of Dr. Fauci back then, must have been in the 90s, are strikingly similar to the criticisms that people have about Dr. Fauci today. It's almost like you feel like you're in a time machine. Like, wait, what is he talking about? And nobody knows about this. Nobody seems to know that this happened.
So suppressed.
And it's almost identical, the criticisms that he had about him versus what we see today. Now, I'm not saying anything about what he did about injecting himself and whether, any of that. I'm not getting into any of that. But his criticisms of Fauci were strikingly similar. And we've got with the Trump impeachment where they kept going after him and going after him and going after him. Well, if you look at what happened with Bill Clinton, tactically, a lot of the stuff was the same. And you and I had this conversation on the air while the impeachment was going on, Susan. I don't know if you recall that. You've probably done thousands and thousands of radio episodes, so I'm not going to remember one little old episode with Mike G. But when the Trump impeachment was going on, we were talking about the similarities of tactically how they were doing that, where they were going to take him down, right? And they set him up because the Clinton investigation didn't start out as a perjury investigation. It didn't, and they got there. They got there, and tactically, what they did with Trump was very similar. And these are not major, I don't want to say they're not major historical things, but they're certainly not Nazi Germany, and they're not Soviet Union. I mean, those are things that impacted and killed millions of people. So if people are not recognizing the big things that you're talking about, Susan, of course they're not going to recognize these less significant things, I guess you could call them.
Sense.
But on the other hand, the encouraging things, again, the good things that have come out of COVID, encouraging things are that parents have had a chance to see what their children were being taught in school. Sure. And they're going to school board meetings and they're taking a stand. And I think that's very positive. So we just keep hoping that, as we allow the word to get out and hopefully truth to get out, that it will make a difference.
We've got a very strange, I think Scott is in a time machine himself. We're talking about time machines. Scott says, is this video having the wrong date on it? This is not 3/24/2022. Something is weird. I am seeing the chats from tonight associated with the 3/3/22 video.
Everything looks fine on my phone. I'm watching on my phone. And
well,
I actually had to restart the YouTube app because it was acting funky, but it never said 3/3 for me.
I see 3/24.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be the other live streams that we had some challenges with there, or maybe Scott traveled through time with us for a little bit there,
Scott, have you been going 88 miles an hour recently?
Scott's in a time machine.
We already talked about this tomorrow, I'll see you yesterday.
Susan, is there anything else you want to tell the wacky Mike G in the Morning family or audience members before we go?
No, we just thank you so much for listening to our programming and welcome comments, and grateful for our listeners. We really are. It's this has been quite an adventure. It continues to be, and I'm very grateful for you all and the other hosts and for our listeners.
It looks like our festival idea is a hit, though. Everybody in the comments blew up about that.
Excellent.
So we'll have to put that in the works.
We should have some fireworks, too, maybe.
Yes.
Ooh.
Fireworks. We're going to blow some stuff up, really, Chris?
Maybe. We'll talk about that.
Just fireworks and just in the sky.
So here's a question.
Get into that later.
Here's the $1,000 question. So
Right.
if you're saying that it has to be a lit cigarette, right?
Yes.
So there's a judge in Dauphin County, Judge Terry, who does not smoke cigars anymore. But often you will see him in the courthouse with an unlit cigar.
Right.
So suppose you're doing that at this WFYL festival.
Right.
And you blow something up with the fireworks and it catches fire. Does that count?
If that happens, I'll give you $2,000.
$2,000. It's a double bonus.
Nobody
right,
aimed the
bonus.
fireworks at Chris. It doesn't count.
If I see you
Right.
with an unlit cigarette in your mouth, I'm going to be sitting behind the corner
Right.
of the Roman candle.
And nobody's allowed to put it in my mouth and light it or shove one in my mouth that's lit. It's if I put it in my
If
mouth.
it's already in
I
your mouth,
like it.
and then it gets lit by something else, though, right?
Well, only if it's like fireworks that I'm running around and
Fireworks.
yeah, like a one
So,
in
so
chant,
if,
yeah.
if I shoot it
Well,
with
I
a
shouldn't
Roman
say this
candle,
because people are going to
that
start shooting me.
counts.
Yeah, it's
Somebody's
really
got to
only...
have the Elon Musk, not a flamethrower. Like, oh, there's now is.
Does it count?
I don't have
Does it
much
count
hair
if
left, so.
Chris himself is on fire too?
no. Let's avoid that. Thank you very much. Yeah. No,
hold on.
And I'll be honest.
I might be on
You have a-
fire,
you
but
have
the
a- you have
cigarette's
an
not.
idea
So
in the
I win.
comments.
Yeah.
Mike, tell Philly Chris he can smoke a cigarette or fight me with a. This is from Brian. The nice,
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
our resident.
no.
Mike, tell Philly Chris he can smoke a cigarette or fight me with a blade. Choose wisely.
Okay, that sounds
Choose
good.
the butt
I'll take
ripper.
On that, I'll take on that challenge, and we should film a scene with Brian sometime.
Well, Gary asks, will Russ fight Mike at the festival
No.
for charity?
Of
So
course.
now you've been called out on the air, and Susan said she wants you to do it. So that's
What?
it. You got no choice. She's the boss. I'm sorry. I don't make the
Great.
rules. Russ and I are going to have a friendly, competitive combat sport
Listen,
for charity.
would you
at
would
the
you
festival.
hit a lawyer with glasses?
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Mike doesn't wear glasses. A lawyer.
No. I'll take off my glass and beat him with it.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
They might not last very long.
I don't know. Put that in his roles and
I
responsibilities.
worded it very carefully. Would you hit a lawyer with glasses?
Oh, you're going to hit him with the glasses?
Yes.
All right. I'll let you have that advantage, Russ, okay? We'll do
No,
the fight
thanks.
as long as you can use your
No.
glasses.
No.
All right. That's it. I'll close us out, all right? Thanks for tuning in. Stick around for We the People, The Constitution Matters. Pastor David Whitney, Professor Phil Duffy. I'll be joining as your legal analyst. We miss you, Ellie. Daddy loves you.